Was the signal usually given during the hunting season to let know to the other hunters to not kill you in Australia, because last time another lecture from the series about the national stereotypes was about the Australians, and as usual the students were asked to put on the three columns the characteristics of the nation, the stereotypes concerning the Australians, the Aussies, and there was a column with negative and positive, and in the middle with the controversial, not so the ambiguous characteristics. Among the negative characteristics about Australians in Australia, it was mentioned the dangerous and wildlife, the nature, dangerous nature, and the natural life in the wildlife in Australia is very rich indeed. There are many mammals and birds and reptiles, even more reptiles and amphibians and so on. Very, very diverse wildlife. So this wildlife, so to say, dominates over the culture in the discourse about the stereotypes concerning the Australians. We were talking, and it really struck me, and also the students, that we were talking more about the nature than about people, because we are talking about a nation that counts only 20 odd million inhabitants, members, and people, and the continent they are living in, it's very vast. It takes over 7.7 million quadrat kilometers, so it's very square kilometers, so it's a huge vast terrain. The other things were that the wildlife is very dangerous. There are many poisonous snakes, poisonous spiders, and so on, and it's true. So it's not. So it's a real nuisance to some Australians, but there are many TV programs about it, and they are pretty aware of all those dangers, and they try to cope with it. The pharmacies are supplied with antidotes and so on. And the nation is pretty aware of all those dangers and so on. The many problems with animals were mentioned, because the wildlife is so much overgrown and so much dominating over the cultural life. Nature dominates the culture, and in Australia, so we have the problems, the so-called war with emus, the great birds, Australian birds, the war against the invasion of the European rabbits, the war against the invasion of European dogs, which were transformed into another species called dingo, and the problems with frogs and all the other animals. The biggest contrast is between the mammals, the non-Australian and Australian mammals, because the Australian mammals have, I don't know what is the name of this branch of mammals in English, but they are being reproduced in such a way that they can only have one child, so one newborn, and they take care of this one newborn, whereas the rabbits, for instance, they have this procreation possibility, like the proverbial rabbit. The problems are also with camels, which are invading the public toilets, and they try to drink from those toilets. So many problems with animals. Among the negative stereotypes was also mentioned the motive, very literary motive, that is also one could say a newspaper motive, about the people living in very secluded places and being kidnapped or just vanished or were murdered in a very suspicious and odd circumstances, and which is very odd, because we are talking about secluded places, but Australia and the Australian Union and the nation Australian nation are the people who are living in the most urbanized place on earth, probably, because almost all Australians are living in a very big or very big cities. And the Australians are not really living in the interior, they are